generic here, but have certain guidelines for providers. And from a provider perspective, they're trying to better manage the quality of care and quality of, or say, their care delivery by having more of a care management aspect rather than a reactive element. So kind of getting ahead of it. There's a concept called sort of PMPM. It's per patient per month. That is sort of one model, if you will, in terms of how payment works, where a health plan will say, I'll give you $100 per patient per month for this particular demographic of patients to manage their care effectively. That's incumbent on the provider to provide certain services that they deem sort of necessary to manage the care of that particular group of patients or that particular patient at an individual level. And then on the payer side, they're responsible for contracting with the right mix of providers and the right sort of distribution geographically providers to make sure that their members have access. And so you have a shift where it's a lot less about, doctors being incentivized to charge on a per service basis and actually being incentivized to manage the quality and the actual health outcomes of their patients that they treat.
Okay, great. Is that just like a government, is that like a law or like a evolving just government stance on, is there a reason why that's happening? I mean, does that feel like?
Yes. So, yeah. So there are certain laws and regulations that are driving that, policies, if you will. But a lot of it is, I think everyone is cognizant of just the rising cost of healthcare in the United States. So we're looking at almost, one in every $5 is going to, or 20 cents in every dollar, however you want to break it down, it is essentially going towards healthcare costs. Wow. That number is trending upward. The pace at which it's trending upward has slowed recently, but it is, unless fundamental changes happen, I think that is just going to continue trending upwards. And I think, a lot of that is the cost pressures are, just not a sustainable model is one of the reasons. And there are several pieces of legislation or regulation that are kind of incentivizing that switch.
Gotcha. Would you say that the rise?
Well,
I'm sorry.
So yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to add, I think the other thing that goes with that really is, you've had over the last decade a lot of
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
I'm sort of in the middle of nowhere. Not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you now. Perfect.
Okay. In the last decade, you've had a lot of disruption in healthcare, from the ACA to some of the rollbacks that have been done. And a lot of that government regulation and swinging back and forth has really forced the industry to look at itself. Because of the uncertainty, you just can't rest on your laurels in the status quo of, oh, okay, I can keep doing this fee-for-service model and everything will be okay. And, it's really forced folks to try to get ahead of some of the change, really look at value, because there is more transparency now than there has been in the past. There are incentive programs at CMS, and the big payers follow what CMS does because that's their regulator. So it's a bit of a different world that forces healthcare organizations of all shapes and sizes to innovate a bit more than they ever had to in the past.
Perfect. What's CMS, by the way?
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Okay. This little $1 trillion payer who's our client.
So basically the volume to value in the new philosophy is in response to the rise of healthcare costs, and just realizing that everybody has to give a little bit to make things work for everybody in today's world.
I'm not sure I'd say everybody has to give a little bit. That makes it sound like, Guidehouse would be advocating for a single payer system, and we're absolutely not. Where, I think changes in the government have in government programs have created